Time to talk about the numbers a little bit and some ideas about where we've been and where we're going. One of the things I wanted to do was give you just a refresher course in what we as the Reno Sparks Association of Realtors and Realtors in general are all about. This is our new mission. We're into dragons slain, maidens rescued, and myths busted. And that's what I hope to do today, is to give you some ideas about some of the things that we hear and read, and certainly try to make sure that we take care of some of these dragons. So the first dragon we're talking about is falling prices. We've certainly heard a lot about falling prices, and we've done our best to try to get the media to address this in a way that is more accurate, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But one of the things is tied in with one of those myths that prices are falling every single month. The other thing that we're trying to combat is the idea that sales are falling all the time. We hear sales have slowed down, sales are down, and what they often mean are prices may be down sometimes, and they're intermixed. So I want to make sure that we get our story straight so that we're certainly talking about the right things. One of the other things we're talking about, of course, is foreclosures. And that dragon is with us. It's going to continue for a while, and everything we hear says that we need to be certainly prepared to do short sales and foreclosures to remain in the business and to help people take care of themselves. And the last thing that's certainly one of those dragons is the idea that there's excess inventory all over the place. We read in the national media and other places that certainly the idea is that there's thousands of homes sitting there in every market just waiting to be sold, and no one can get them sold. So let's talk about that. So the big dragons are there. So let's talk about home prices. Now, we certainly saw this decline, and it's there. Those of you that open your newsletter every month that Sherry puts out, we put these numbers together, and you have these numbers available to you at all times. Now, the idea from 2005 to 2008 is we had a significant drop, and there's no question about it. Everybody here was, most of us were involved in that and certainly saw it happen. So we've got something to be done here. So the next thing we've got to do is figure out where to go from here. So let's set that up. The second piece is the idea that where have sales been? Now, some of you have been around for long enough to have looked at the sales during the 2002 to 2005 run-up, and lots of you did really well during that time. But I know that many of the people in this room have had their best year last year, and they've had their best year the year before. So something's out of whack there if we're hearing about falling unit sales, and yet some people are thriving. So we need to take issue with that. And so one of the things that we do by January of 2008, we certainly look at a low point in actual unit sales, and when you look at those together, we saw prices fall and we saw the unit sales fall at the same time, and that's certainly a big deal. Now, this chart's from our friends at Tycor, and one of the things that's a little hard to see, I'm sure, from the back, but the most important thing is that foreclosure notice of defaults have certainly been high, and very high during the period of time of July, August, and September during this year. But one of the things to remember is that there are often 2 or 3 notice of defaults per property. So when you read Realty Track and some of the other outfits that report this, they're reporting total notice of defaults. And in many cases, there's a first, a second, an HOA, and perhaps other things that can certainly get in the way. So we need to take these things into perspective. And the bottom line, and you can't see it very well, but the lowest line in this graph is the actual trustees' deeds that were issued. And they're actually very low, and very low in relationship to way back several years from in the past. They do not track month over month. So when you see trustees' deeds in December and you look at that number, that's reflecting probably the notice of defaults from 250 days before that, because the average time from notice of default to a listing is about 250 days. So it's an amazing thing for a foreclosure process. Now, I wouldn't be a realtor worth his salt if I didn't slip one of my own listings into this thing. I mean, give me a break, okay? So all of the data that you're seeing right now is for single-family stick-built homes, but I had to throw something in, and this was a tough year for condos. So this one's ready. Now, it could be single-family or multifamily, so it's zoned either way. And just get your checkbooks out and rush at this one, okay? Now, I wanted to give you just a visual recap of 2005 to 2008. We don't really care where he goes, do we? All right. So let's look at the dragon slayers for now. I'll just leave you hanging with that. One of the things that we certainly see as a dragon slayer is the idea that sales are certainly a solution for a lot of things, and that's something that we can talk about. Another thing is low interest rates, and as we've heard from our offerings that we see so far, interest rates are probably, according to almost every source, going to remain at least under control for at least a few more months and maybe into the middle of the year and beyond. We don't know, but certainly there's a lot of pressure to keep it aligned with the investment tax credit there, the tax credit of $8,000 and the $6,500 move up. So I think those things will go hand in hand, at least for the foreseeable future. Remember, they're still at all-time low rates, so when they creep up even a quarter, that doesn't really take people out of the market too far, if at all. And of course, the tax credit, and that's still around. That $8,000 credit, there's still a ton of misunderstandings about that, and I think we all need to be experts at that so that we can do that. You can Google it, you can find it all kinds of places. Realtor.org has some great materials on this as well, but by now virtually everybody, certainly in our business, understands it, but the public still really thinks that they have to pay some of it back. There's a lot of misinformation about that out there, and we just have to keep the pressure on to keep them educated. Now, one bright spot, we'll actually make it a spot, okay, is the idea of unit sales. And that's one of those dragon slayers that certainly keeps us in a position to help defeat some of the negative information that's out there. And one of the things that we can do with this is look at what reality says is 2 years of growth in unit sales. From 2008 to the present, we've seen a steady increase in the actual number of single-family homes that have been sold each year. Now, these numbers are for the greater Reno-Sparks area, the Reno 100 market in our MLS. So it's basically Washoe County without incline. A little bit of Lockwood, a little bit of the Highlands, but realistically, it's the greater Reno-Sparks area, and this is for single-family homes. Now, the lows are getting higher, the highs are getting higher, and we've seen record sales during this last couple of years, especially during the winter, and we'll talk about that more in a minute.